Well, welcome, ladies. Coach Jen Enders here today. I'm so excited to be with you this morning, and we've got a full house. For those of you who are just joining, and maybe this is your first session with the network, we want you to be active in the chat. As you may already see, ladies are introducing themselves, sharing where they're from. This is a great opportunity for you to network, to get to meet other women who are here in the network. And so I want you, if you have not, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you are joining from today and what your business is about or what it is that you do so that we get to learn a little bit more about you. I'm going to share my screen today and share a presentation that I actually shared with the ladies at the network who joined us for our mastermind in Orlando. How many ladies were in Orlando with us? I see lots of faces that I know. I met you there. It was powerful, so exciting to be there and to see you all, and awesome to get to experience just being in the room, right? That matters, being able to see each other. Hold on. I'm having just a little bit of video issues. One second. I'm going to do two things first before I start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause my video. And then as I share today with you all, I'm going to actually shut my camera off in order to share some slides. So you're not going to see me for a little bit, but I think I'm having a little bit of connectivity issue when I try to share screen and be on video at the same time. So I'll do that in a minute, but I want to make sure that you see me face to face for a moment. But for those of you who are in Orlando with us, will you just note in the chat? I know I saw Madonna there, obviously my Lita, who is my co-hostess with the mostest. We had such a great time. So many of you were there. It was so nice to see you. Yes, Leslie and Rosario. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, before we get jumping into it and sharing, then what I'll do is I'm just going to introduce myself for those of you who did not get the chance to meet me there or don't know who I am. So I'm Coach Jen. I am an executive sales coach. I am on the board here with CEO Chicks and have been around since the beginning, 2016. I am in corporate sales and have been for just over 20 years. I know I'm aging myself for sure, but what I do here at the network is use my corporate experience and my sales background to help bring process, talk about technology, and then of course, building value and what it is that you have to offer to the marketplace. And so I am a mother of four and have been married for 19 years and reside here in the west suburbs of Chicago. So that's a bit about me. I'm really excited to share today, as I mentioned, the presentation, a bit of it that I shared while we were at the mastermind. And so we'll talk about this. It's going to be in two sessions, and it's all about your proximity to power. Proximity to power, and truly how you can achieve exponential results this year by shifting who it is that you are in relationship with, who are you transacting business with. And so it's a two-part. So today we're going to talk a bit about theory, a bit about how to assess if you're in the right rooms with the right people. And then part two, it's going to be real heavy in strategy and tools. So I want you all to be prepared. You're going to be here for this session, but I don't want you to miss our session at the end of the month. It's going to be this same time, the last week of the month. Let me look back at the date. Is that the 26th? Oh my goodness, the month is going to go by so fast. Yes, I believe it's the 26th. So we'll be back for part two. So don't miss that. All right. So what I'm going to do, ladies, if you're just joining, I want you to introduce yourself in the chat. I want you to list what your business is, where you're joining us from. We want people to get to know each other within the chat while we're here. I also want you to use that chat to ask questions. And so we'll get real engaged as we get going here. I'm going to go ahead and stop my video just for a moment while I share screen. And then we're going to get started. I hope y'all are excited. It's going to be fully loaded today is all I can say. Fully loaded. So as I mentioned, the presentation really is about proximity to power, how to achieve exponential growth in your business. And I'm going to share my perspective today as I've experienced it in corporate America, and not only in corporate America, but as an entrepreneur myself. I've been someone who's always had a business alongside what I do in corporate, and of course have worked very closely with growing CEO Chicks and the brand here. And so I'll be sharing some stories in relation to that as well today too for you. So as we get going, I introduced myself. Just so you all, for those of you who didn't join, you'll see a couple things I didn't mention. As it pertains to my experience, I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, primarily in the areas of finance and technology. So that's what I really love to talk about. And you'll hear more and more from me as we continue to work together. But today, let's get down to business. I want to talk about some really astounding facts. And for those of you who are in Orlando who heard this, I know it's great to repeat, so I'm hoping that you're going to take it in a second time. But for those who haven't, we follow a report that American Express puts out generally every year, and it's the state of women-owned business. Now, this report we have not seen since 2019 due to COVID. So the facts and the details that I'm sharing today are from that time period. But what I will say is understanding what's happening in the market, this is very consistent with what we're seeing now coming out of COVID. But the facts are from the years 2014 to 2019, minority women's income, this is business income, went from $67,800 to $65,800. That's a decline from 2014 to 2019. In comparison to non-minority women's income, where they went from $198,500 to $218,800. Just astounding. And as I shared with you all, and I'll just briefly share again, there's lots of things that can impact that number, right? It could be the fact that we know many minority businesses are what we would call side businesses, right? We're working full-time and we may only have a part-time business. It may be the type of businesses that we see with minority businesses compared to those of non-minority. But what I will say, I know is a factor, and I prayed about it, and really as I was thinking about how to bring a topic to the network that would really impact you all, it has a lot to do with their proximity to power. Their proximity to power. And so this makes a difference in being funded. It makes a difference in being supported. It makes a difference in the resources that you have, the knowledge that you have. And so that's what we're talking about today, and why it's so important to understand how you can make a difference in this area. The one thing that I want to share on the right side of the slide that is a little bit of new information is how important minority women-owned businesses have in terms of an impact to the larger economy. And so these little circles are sharing the total revenue for minority women-owned business is $422 billion in 2019. That's a lot of money. But if minority women business were at parity or equal to that of non-minority women, the income that would have been generated, the revenue that would have been generated would have been $1.4 trillion. So it's just showing the disparity, the difference on the left-hand side of the screen, how that impacts the actual global economy. And so it's important. We know that when women's businesses thrive, it changes households. It changes generations. It changes our community. And this is the foundation of why CEO Chick Network is so important. And it really is just the foundation of why we do what we do. So I'm excited you're here. I'm excited to share this information today that we believe is truly going to change the facts as we go forward. Sound like a plan? I see heads nodding. I love it. So there's 3 key points we're going to talk about today when it comes to your proximity to power. This is the power circle here. Right in the center is power, and right in the center is money, dollars, right? We know that when we are closer in the circle of power, we can experience exponential growth in our business. But right now, for many of us, that's you, that little star shining bright, all on the outside of the circle. Not near as close to power as you need to be, right? And so our goal is to talk today about how do we get you there. When you're in the proximity to power, when you're in that circle, you're going to experience three things. That's cultivation, exposure, and opportunity. Cultivation, exposure, and opportunity. I want you to write those down, because what our goal is today is to assess where we are in places of power and where we are not. And you'll know when you are experiencing these three things: cultivation, exposure, and opportunity. Okay. I want to pause there. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I want y'all to see my face again. If I were to ask you, if you think about your own personal position, your business's position in the marketplace and in proximity to power, if you were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, you'd say, you know what? I'm in some powerful places. I think I'm probably like a 7, right? But I've got some ways to go. If you're a 10, that means you are right in the midst of it. You know, you're walking with power players. You know that you're with decision makers that are helping change the trajectory of your business, then you're a 10. If you're not even close, then obviously you're 1. But would you just take a moment to kind of self-assess as we move forward here and let me know, where do you think you are in proximity to power on a scale of 1 to 10? And then will you be bold enough to drop it in the chat? Yeah, love it. Self-assessment is important. It's where we recognize areas of opportunity. Love it. 7, some 5s, some 4s. Good. All right, we got a 1 with emoji. I love it. That's all good. A 4.5. I love that, Sharday. So to the point. I love it. That's great. A 1. Okay, good. I love kind of just doing some self-checks like that, right? I think that there's going to be, as we'll talk about it, areas of power. You may have not just one circle, you may have a few circles, right? Based on your industry, based on your personal life. And we'll talk about that. You may have a circle that's like a 10, but you may have another area that's a 1. And so it's just important as we start to think about this and you chart out a strategy over the next 2 calls that we're working towards seeing improvement in whatever that number is. But thank you so much for getting active in the chat and looking at that with us. So I have one slide that I'm going to share with you all, and I want you to take a screenshot of it because I want to be able to come back on screen and just talk to you all. This is it. This is kind of our bullet points for the day. We're going to walk through these. So if you're able to go ahead and see that. Are you all seeing the 3 bullet points under cultivation? Good. Exposure and opportunity. Take a screenshot, write a couple notes, and then I'm going to work through those with you all here. But I do want to make sure that I get to see you and don't have any technical difficulties. So I will kind of go back and forth. So let's talk this through. One of the biggest, I'll say, events in the last couple of years of my life, impactful moments I had was as I sat at lunch with a mentor about 1.5 years ago. She's part of my power circle, a corporate executive, African-American female who is just dynamic. And I shared this story while I was there in Orlando, so I'll be brief in sharing it again. But essentially, she had let me know she was looking to try to level up in her career. She wanted to move into a new role and spent about the last 1.5 years kind of meeting and greeting executives at other companies that she thought would be a fit for her. Lunches, she had met some recruiters, really building kind of that power circle in order to level up. Well, needless to say, she got an interview with a large financial firm, and really during that time cultivated herself to understand more about what she brought in value to the marketplace. She got better at articulating that and finally found like the mountaintop experience, the company that was going to be a fit for her. And this is corporate America, but I want you all to think about it when you think about conversations where you want to place your business, where you want to bring value to another organization if you're selling B2B, right? So she finally gets the interview. She goes through, they almost quasi create a role for her alongside a couple other people that had similar roles in the organization, and they give her an offer. The offer is double what she was earning previously in salary with another organization, somewhere around $300,000 a year. That's a lot of money, right? She's like, you got to be kidding me. This is an excellent company. This is like this created role that's perfect for me. And they're offering me almost double what I was earning before. She accepted immediately, was ecstatic, right? About 3 or 4 days later, she gets a call from a female leader who is actually going to be who she reports to. And the conversation went much like this. We're so excited to have you on board. I saw that you accepted our offer. This is fantastic. You know, your start date's going to be X. We're excited to get moving forward, but I have some concern. She said, the offer that you accepted shows me that you've never been in a position to be paid this kind of money for this kind of a role. And that's okay, but I want you to understand that your counterparts who are doing the same type of work are making much more than you. And so I'd like to come back and offer you something different. Well, that something different, you all, increased her salary by almost another $200,000. And the on top commissions and bonuses that she had the ability to earn put her over $700,000 a year. I was floored. This moment was life-changing for me. It was life-changing for me, as I hope it is for you as I retell it and I share it, because we have to begin to understand that money is flowing, first of all. They may say we're in a recession, and there are going to be some areas of the marketplace that, yes, things have tightened up. But the reality is money is flowing. The question is, are you positioned in the place to earn it? Number one. And number two, do you have a real understanding of what your value in the marketplace should command in dollars? The only way that she found out about this, that this door opened, that this key to access these unbelievable levels of income came because she was in proximity to a powerful woman who was interested in equality, right? In giving her the information she needed to be able to position herself in a better way. Proximity to power is so important, y'all. We have got to be in places and in partnership with people who have got our back, who are ready to give us the inside information, who are willing to share stories like this. Think about my proximity to her, to share openly this story with me that just blew my mind, opened up a whole nother, it made me realize I got to level up. And this is what set the foundation for me understanding how I needed to move in my career and in my business in a different way and get myself positioned with people like that. And so I tell that story so that y'all can get excited. I see Natisha say, this story keeps blowing my mind. I know it blows my mind too, in a good way. I love it that, we've got to position ourselves in the right places. So let me dive into this. Cultivation, exposure, and opportunity. This is how you start to assess if you're in the room with the right people. If you're walking with people who are going to help get you to the next level and that you can also bring value to them. So let's talk specifically about cultivation, and I'm going to break it down in a few areas. I want you all to ask questions in the chat. Really, if you've got ideas or thoughts, I'll stop as we're going because I really want it to be as much of a conversation as we possibly can have. So cultivation, when you're in proximity to power, it challenges you. it challenges you. This happens a lot in mentor relationships, mentor-mentee relationships. So when you begin to think about being in proximity to power, I want you to think about who are your powerful mentors in your area. Geographically, maybe not even right there in your area, but they could live across the country, but they're in proximity to you. You could be engaging with them, that they're going to challenge you. They're going to make you think in a different way. They're going to cause you to want to level up. When you're in the room with this person or these people, you stand a little taller, you put your best fit on, right? Like, it cultivates in you a leveled up version of yourself. Let's just say a 2.0, right? If you don't have anybody that you're working with right now, anybody that you're around that doesn't make you want to be the 2.0 version of yourself, we got to make some change. We got to build a strategy. We got to figure out who those people are. If you're new to CEO Chicks, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the step number one right here. You're in the room. Because these ladies, I will tell you right now, get in a few side conversations, schedule yourselves a few coffee chats with some women in this chat right here, and you'll be challenged. You'll level up. You'll be inspired. So you're already in the right place. But I want you to think about that a little bit more. When you are cultivated by proximity to power, it drives excellence. It drives excellence. We always are looking to be better, but iron sharpens iron. And when you are in proximity to other women and other business owners who are doing amazing things, it gives you greater ideas. It gives you a new way to position yourself in the market. It drives excellence, and that's important to see. And the last point here that I want to share, but I think one of the most important, is that when you are in proximity to power, it ends imposter syndrome. Does everybody know what imposter syndrome is? I'm seeing some heads shaking. It's that feeling that you've arrived, or that you've arrived, but that for some reason you don't belong, or that somehow you feel like you snuck in the back door and they just haven't figured you out yet, that you really don't know what you're doing. Let me tell you, imposter syndrome is a mess. And if you get entangled in it, if you allow it to really become this big thing in your mind and in your heart, it will cease success for you. But what I want to say is, I think that oftentimes we miss moving into proximity with power because of imposter syndrome, because we feel like we don't belong, because we think that we shouldn't be in that room. And I want to tell you, as somebody who has had the chance for years to sit at boardroom tables with C-level this and VP of that, and I've got $1 million budgets I manage. Many of these people are brilliant, wonderful people, but many of them, I am looking across that table like, am I being punked? Like, how did you get, you're doing this, right? When you get in proximity to power, and I mean really close, seeing, experiencing, talking with people in powerful positions, it's not to say that you'll recognize they don't belong. It's that you'll recognize that they're human just like you, that you have the capacity, the capability, and the smarts to be doing same, if not greater than they are doing. And so I want to challenge you, if you have been someone who has stayed back from these power positions, these powerful relationships, because you somehow feel like you don't belong, I want to tell you today, you belong. You belong. Sure, you may be learning. You may only have been 1 or 2 years in business, 2 months in business. But the reality is you have the tenacity, you have the ability, you have the know-how. And the reality is these humans, other people just like us, who wake up every day feeding their children, putting their pants on the same way, doing their makeup. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing these things probably with a little bit of imposter syndrome themselves. If you had the chance to talk to them, you'd probably find out. It was funny. One of the greatest stories I saw Michelle Obama share when she was doing her book tour was talking about that. She said she sat at the tables of all tables. Come on now, dignitaries, heads of government, heads of state. Just as she said, this little old girl from the south side of Chicago. And she looked at these people running these countries and had that same aha moment that I had. Like, what? These are the people running these countries. I can do this. I belong here. And so I say all that is that you'll become cultivated by these environments, and it will give you the opportunity to stop with the imposter syndrome, to recognize that you belong. But you will not be able to conquer that until you step into the fullness of getting into these relationships, getting into these rooms, challenging yourself to be able to get to know people in places of power. Sound good? Y'all ready to do it? Good. Exposure. I want to talk about the right rooms. You know, for many of you, you've been in business for years. You're very successful, 6 figures, more maybe, you know, you're doing the thing, but the next level of exponential growth may require you to be in different rooms than you've been in before. And so a part of today's call, you know, as I talked about, is really assessing where we are, is making sure that we're in the right place. You know, as I started to sell technology, sell period, let me say that first, sell period, I started in financial industry. And then as I started, you know, tech started to become big. Some of the companies I was working with started having financial technology offerings. So I began to work in that space. And because I changed the room that I was selling to, the product that I was selling, I started making more money doing the exact same thing that I had been doing the years before. After I went into financial technology, and then we saw, you know, the downturn in the economy, even over the last 5 years with COVID, I thought, okay, this may not be the place for me. How do I point myself in a different direction? And I went into straight technology, doing the same thing, but now in a little bit different industry. And in the midst of an economic downturn during COVID, saw my business revenue go up. And we talked about this in Orlando, and I really still feel like it's so important to share that many of your businesses have the ability to not morph and change exactly what your offering is per se, or the name of your business, but what if you turned yourself in just a little different direction, to a different room, to a different client type, to a different buyer that has more power, that has more money, that proximity change can absolutely change the trajectory of your business. So lack of success may not be that you don't have the right idea. It may not be that you don't have the right product. You may just be in the wrong room selling it to the wrong people. And that's something to think about. That's something to think about. When you plan your 1 year, your 3 year, your 5 year strategy, when you're looking at economic headwinds, as they call it, right? When the market gets tough, when we're in a place where the economy isn't great, you need to be thinking as a CEO, how do I position my company to continue to be successful despite economic headwinds? And your proximity to power will help you do that. Have you all heard that before? People are making money in a recession. There's always somebody making money in a recession. It just depends on what side of the recession you're on. And you have a choice. You have a choice. So I want you to begin to think about proximity to power in that way. Are you in the right room? Selling to the right people. Maybe you were in the right room 2 years ago, but the room has changed. Right? And those buyers, those people that were helping you get to your 6 figure years 3 years ago are not the same people right now. Okay. So think about that. Tell me, I see Madonna said she's been receiving confirmation after confirmation. Oh, good, good, good. Tell me this. I want to know if this is resonating with some of you. Are any of you thinking about an industry change? Are you thinking about a buyer change, you know, who you're selling to? I see Madonna waving her hand. This is important. And I think that realtors, I think we've got a lot of realtors on here, right? You know, if they're a buyer or a seller agent, or they've been both, they're always both, but in some seasons it's more than one, it's more than the other. It's kind of that same thought process. And I know that may change for each of your businesses, but I'm hoping that I'm starting to give you some ideas on how maybe you can address that a little bit differently, regardless of the industry you're in or the product it is that you have to offer. Awesome, Leandra. Glad to see that you're thinking of making some changes. That's great. When we're in the room with people and we're gaining exposure to new groups of people, we always want to be sure that we are there to get value and to build relationship, but we always want to be willing to give value. And this is really important because you have to recognize when you are in places of power with other people, you always have something to offer. You always have something to offer. And so I want you to be very open as you're meeting new people, as we talk about your strategy to position yourself in a new place, that you're prepared to have a real fluid relationship where there's lots of give and there's lots of get. And when you're really thoughtful to that give, get, that's where we see power moves really happen, because people begin to see you of value. They also want to pour into you. And when you find those right relationships where there's lots of give, there's lots of get, there's generosity flowing, there's energy moving, that's when we see sparks fly. That's when we see new ideas, new collaborations, new partnerships come. Those are the kind of partnerships when you're in power positions with people, that's the feeling you want to get. If you're not getting that with the people that you're working with now, I want you to consider making changes. Okay. And changing your audience. I think that we've kind of talked about it already, you know, just making sure that we're not so stuck in the rhythm and the motion of yesterday that we aren't being attentive to what today commands of us, what this new season commands of us, what 2023 expectations and relationships should look like compared to 2022. You know, humans, we're very habitual. We create habits, good and bad. We create process and motion. And, you know, I'm a type A person. I love process. I like to do things the same way. I like, once I know it works, to keep doing it. But I have found the more willing I am to assess the process and be willing to say, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. This isn't bringing value to me anymore. And I pivot, I see growth. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. I want to pause for a moment. We're doing great on time. As I get to kind of our latter half here, I want to pause and see if there's any questions that anybody has. You can unmute and you can talk, or you can throw it in the chat. But I'd like to get a little bit of discussion before we talk about new opportunities and then some strategies. Because, you know, if you know me, you come to a class with me, you're going to have some homework. So we got some homework coming. But any questions anyone has, if you'd like to unmute, reflections and the like. Of course, I can show the slide again. Thanks. That's a great question. I am sharing now. So we've talked through cultivation. We have talked through exposure. And now we're going to talk about opportunity. What kind of opportunities occur when you are in proximity to power? Thank you for asking to add that back, Geraldine. So let's chat a little bit about opportunity. I'll leave it up here for a moment. When you're in relationship with people, you have the opportunity to begin to collaborate, you know, to get referrals, to hear of opportunities that you wouldn't have had if you were just on your own. You all remember that first picture I showed you, the circle of the power, and you're the little bright shining star all out there by yourself, trying to make this thing do what it do, get it done. I'm hustling, right? But when you place yourself into that circle, into the proximity to power, you begin to have the ability to take on opportunities you haven't before. The power to proximity, or proximity to power, is something that Tony Robbins talks a lot about. And I've heard him in the past share a story where he talked about, he's a very famous coach. I don't know if many of you know him, but he's a famous coach. He helps a lot of people who are stars, actresses, those kind of things. And so, needless to say, he's been in lots of movies. And just by way of knowing these actors and directors and being in proximity, right? They're like, come on, be in this gig for me. And so he's been in lots of movies. But as he was talking to his mentor, shared with him he really wanted to get into owning businesses and into the market, really to see his income explode in this kind of next season. His mentor said, well, you're around the wrong people. You need to get in touch with investment bankers. And that's who you should look to start to begin to rub shoulders with. And so he started on a trajectory to strategize and plan to meet investment bankers. And he said over a 2-year period, y'all, worked this strategy, meeting investment bankers, going out to lunches, becoming friends with this new community. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. Finally, about 2 years in, he's at lunch with now one of his friends who happens to be an investment banker. And he said, hey, I got a tip on a deal, but we need another investor. Would you want to come in? And I don't remember exactly all the stats now off the top of my head, but I'll tell you this deal he said he got into within a year's time, came to fruition, sold this business, bought, sold, executed on it, made over $40 million in one transaction with this investment banker that took him 2 years to cultivate a relationship with. And so opportunity, I'm coming back to that because he shared, I could have literally had no idea how I would have ever made that happen on my own. Literally set him up for his retirement, legacy earning for his children and his children's children, off of a 2-year commitment to a strategy and an opportunity that he could have never really created himself. He needed that powerful person to help him do that. And the reality is, it took him 2 years to build what I call know, like, and trust. People buy from people. People work with people. They invest with people. They collaborate with people that they know, like, and trust. So as we begin to build this strategy, I want you to begin to not think short term, but to think very long term about where it is you want to be. If you knew that on the other side of this teaching and possibly 2 years of building relationship, that you could have a multi-million-dollar deal, would it be worth it for 2 years? Yes. Heck yeah, it would, right? So, but I want to share that to think about the time, but I also want to share that to think about how big I want you to be thinking. Thinking about who are the kinds of people that are going to get you to the end result that you really want. Not just the result that's going to get my bills paid this year, that's going to get me to, in the green, in the black, right? As they say, rather than the red, but the end goal. Oh, I'll mute you there. That's what I want you to be thinking about. Think like that Tony Robbins story big. And as we chart out our strategy, those are the people and the places that we want you to be headed in. And as you're going there, you have to recognize that you've got to be your authentic self. You've got to build relationship, build friendship, do that give get thing so that you know that people know who you are, that they like working with you and collaborating with you, and that they can trust you. That's really important because that's what's going to allow these opportunity doors to open and open wide. And then the last is becoming a value. You know, at some point it took, in this example, I'll say Tony Robbins to become valuable, right? It took time for them to recognize maybe where there was a fit, that this guy could find a deal that was going to work for him. But you can't come into these places of power, these relationships, and not shine. I want you to be ready to shine. I want you to be able to share value. I want you to be able to have great conversation and share ideas and come to the table with something that somebody's going to see and say, man, that Mylita, like, I've got to find something to collaborate on with her. I want to work with her. You know, Madonna, she is sharp. Like that, there's got to be some way we're going to work together in the future. I may not know now, but it's going to happen. That you want to set that up and make that impression with people so that you can see it happen. So those are the three pillars, the three keys that are going to be really important, I think, for you all to start to recognize where I am now. Is it profitable for me? And am I in close enough proximity to power? If I'm not, now you know what to look for, how to cultivate that environment, and then find the right people. So we're going to talk next about your homework. And I'm going to spend a few minutes here, and then we're going to talk about this and then prepare kind of for next steps. Homework, two things. Your top 10. I want you to come to our next session knowing who are the top 10 people that are in a power position that will be impactful to you, and you could be impactful to them. And some of these may be more just they're going to be impactful to you, and that's okay too, right? You'll find where you can bring value when you get there. But if you know there are some game changers that you need to be in contact with, rubbing shoulders with, go into lunch, I'm not sure how I'm going to get connected with them, but I just know that they're the person. I want them to go on your list. You may not even know their name yet, but you know that they are a government official in your area that would be, you know, it could be the mayor. It could be, trying to think of some other examples that I thought of. You know, it could be an executive at an organization that your company could be collaborating with, right? Those are just some of the ideas, but I want you to pick your top 10. And then we're going to talk about how to map out how to connect with them, what to do to connect with them, how to engage, how to outreach. We'll make sure that we do that on our next call in a very specific way. I won't leave you without feeling great about that. So if you don't know names, just know I need this kind of person. Let me think. I'm trying to think of some other ideas for you guys. It could be a resource who could funnel you business. Ooh, Narisa has her first go-to. Sharday said this is good. So for instance, people like Kim Lee, one of our brand ambassadors, she sells cosmetics. She's always looking for great wholesaling organizations to work with, right? To cultivate a new product. You know, somebody who, a chemist who has a certain type of background that could create her newest product for her line. Like those are the kind of people I'm thinking about, right? If you're a real estate agent, it could be somebody at a bank or a mortgage company who's going to refer you business on a consistent basis. Could be a financer. Ooh, look at this. Sharday's got some ideas. City planner, contract specialist, grant writer, the mayor. I love it. So you may not have their names. That's okay. That's all going to be a part of our strategy, is figuring out who they are. Just start to know who they are. Are you guys feeling good about creating your top 10? Do you need some more ideas around that? You're good. If you're good, give me a thumbs up in the chat. I want to make sure you're still with me. Awesome. Oh, yes. Or the little emojis. I love those. Thanks, guys. Awesome. So I'll tell you some of these examples. We're going to talk about a strategy next week, but I also want you guys to not wait. If you know that there are people that you should have already been reaching out to, you know who that person is, and you actually know what you want to say and know how you want to do it. I also want this to be a reason today to just get that off of your to-do list and get it done. Get it done today. I'll tell you, we had an amazing testimony as I shared this similar message when we were in Orlando. The mayor was just one of the ideas that came in my head, and I just shared it. Well, lo and behold, one of our CEO chicks had on her to-do list for like a month and a half to reach out to the mayor of a very large city here in the US, because there's an opportunity to collaborate. And I'll tell you, she did not get to around to this. After I talked to her about it, she said, I just knew I needed to. I think I was a little nervous. I just found reasons why I shouldn't do it. And so, do you know, she text messaged that mayor. That's how close of a connection she actually had. She could have just texted and got herself a meeting while we were inside the session at the mastermind with the mayor that she should have been following up with. And now already has lunch scheduled, like the deal is going to start to go through. You know, we can get ourselves in our way, y'all. We can get in the way. It's on us. We just got to move. And so I want to share with you, move. If you already know, we'll talk about more complex strategy and for areas you don't know what to do on the next call. But if you know what to do, just do it. Chop, chop. All right. Let me look in here. I saw some more chats come up while I was sitting here navigating screens. More ideas. Precious Robinson wants more ideas. Precious, will you unmute your phone for me and just tell me what it is you do? Or text.
Hey, Jen. Hey, CEO Chicks.
Hey.
I've been in a funeral business. It's a little different from everyone else. As far as we have certain connections with certain churches, pastors, the mayor, but I'm like, I know everybody will probably need a funeral service here and there, but it's kind of weird for some people to even to connect with some, because people look a little at me like, oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. I can imagine that. So are there other industries, let me just think, like that have to have that same conversation, like hospice care? Are you connected with people who own hospice care?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, or Colleen said estate planners. Leandria said connecting with local hospital. So sure, knowing a chief marketing officer at a hospital, somebody who has leverage and power in those networks to be able to share your name, maybe do a collaboration with them of some sort. Ooh, yeah, good ideas, ladies. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, ladies.
Good. Boy, this is how it works. I don't have all the ideas. Retirement planning. Yes, Sade. That's great. And yes, she liked the hospice companies too. Yeah, that works out well. Senior homes. Oh my gosh, so many ideas. And these are the things, you know, you'll go, and it's not necessarily just about marketing you. It's about who runs that company. What are their needs? How do you just get a lunch to learn more about their business? And we'll talk about that. How do you set it up to go relationship first, business second, and building that opportunity for know, like, and trust to figure out the collaboration along the way, right? That's really important. Good stuff. Market how you can serve their community. Exactly right, Madonna. That's a great one. That's a great one. All right, I won't bring back up my other homework, but you saw it. LinkedIn. LinkedIn. That was the little icon you all saw there. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Will you give me a hand raise or an emoji if you are? Okay, one, maybe two, three. Okay, good. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. And alongside you doing your homework and figuring out your top 10, LinkedIn can be a very great place for you to conduct research. Research on other businesses, research as we get into figuring out who these people are. Many powerful people, whether they're business owners, they're executives at companies, they run government agencies, they're private, sector, they're on LinkedIn. They have a profile. They're sharing information about who they are. It's important at this stage of your businesses to go to next levels, to have a presence there and to begin to understand how to use this tool for all that it is. It's pretty big. And so I say big in that it can be a place where you platform yourself and share yourself as a thought leader, share ideas, share your impact in your community, in your areas. It's a way that you will connect with other powerful people. As I mentioned, you can research and then you can also learn on LinkedIn, which thank you, Natisha. She is all on it. They also have a learning platform and a learning set of tools. And so this is something that I'd like for you all to put down as homework, to get an official LinkedIn profile set up. CEO, founder of whatever your business is about. There are little trainings and things out there that you'll find how to set up a great LinkedIn profile. So I won't have the time to go into that. But as we start to establish you in circles of power and you're meeting other people of power, they're going to look for you. And they may look on Instagram, they may look on Facebook, but I can tell you right now, people of power are going to look for you on LinkedIn. And I want you to have the right setup there. Okay. I want you to be able to be found, and then I want you to be able to find others. So that's another way to get yourself out there. Khalees said corporate dollars hit different. It sure does. And I want you guys to be in position to do that. So that's your homework. Light homework, your top 10 list, your LinkedIn setup. Definitely Google LinkedIn profile training. Look at their learning tool. They'll show you there how to get it set up. And then I'm going to see you guys in 2 weeks where we're going to talk about a few things. And I'm going to give you just a quick screen share so you can see what to expect, because I don't want you to miss this. It's going to be so good. Next week, there's 3 things we're going to really talk about. Building out a contact map. I touched on this on Orlando, but this is where we say, hey, I want to talk to the mayor. I want to become friends with the mayor. But you can't just like roll up on the mayor, right? Like there's got to be a way, a strategy, how you're going to connect to that person. And that's building out what I call a contact map. How do we get in contact with? Who are the levels that we need to get engaged with to get to that power position? Okay. Oh, my next line got a little messed up, but it's research tools to find power. So I'm going to talk about some specific tools. I already gave you one, LinkedIn, how you can find power, but we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to finish off talking about your 2023 action plan. This is all for nothing if we don't take action. So those 3 things are what we're going to talk about next time. We're going to chart out progress. How do you get engaged with the right people? What's the strategy? What do I say when I find them? And then we're going to mark out what are our goals so that by the end of the year, we're seeing fruit in becoming in power positions with people who are going to help us get to that next level. Y'all ready? Yay, good. I see hands clapping. Teresa's all about it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We've got 5 minutes left. I'm available if you have questions. I want you to unmute and ask them. If you don't have questions, what I do want to remind you of is find other amazing women like you. I already know you know them. Invite them to become a part of this circle right here, this power circle we've got going. I'll tell you, we are better together. We are growing a fund to help support each other's businesses. And we need more women to come in and put in their energy, put in their time and their treasure so that we can see all of us level up together. So I want to remind you of that. And then was there any other questions that you ladies had? Did I hear somebody get unmuted and have a question? Go for
Yes,
it.
I have a question. I have a lot of opportunities sometimes when I meet people of position that can actually help me. But what do you do when you feel like you're really not prepared yet? Because you don't want to kind of pull that card too early. You know what I mean? So what do you do at that stage?
So the thing is, I guess, prepared for what specifically, right? I think that there's got to be some milestones in how that partnership or relationship is going to progress. So maybe could you define that a little bit more?
Like, say, for example, you're looking for something that they specialize in and they can actually help you get to that next level, but you're not prepared yet. You may not have all of the pieces together. Do you just go ahead and present, or do you kind of position yourself and say, you know what, let's build that relationship and I'll circle back? That's kind of like where I'm at.
Yeah, there could be a few different ways to go on that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being transparent. And this is part of the know, like, and trust. If you're meeting that person, you've engaged, go to coffee, learn about them, figure out what it is that they do well. People love talking about themselves. Like your first couple engagements may be really just about that. And then you might spatter in there. This is what I'm thinking about doing. This is where I'm headed, but I'm trying to kind of get all the details ironed out. What do you think? Ask their opinion, get them to weigh in, right? Find ways for them to share. Again, people love helping, right? And so I think that you don't have to lay it all out right away, and you don't have to present it as though you're not ready either. You're evolving, your idea is evolving. It's coming. I'm just trying to put some things together. I think we might have a way to collaborate. What are your thoughts? Like, just, let that naturally kind of evolve. It doesn't have to be like a one-hit wonder, like a transactional thing, right? I think that sometimes we feel like this is my at bat. I got to just knock it out of the park right now because I'll never get an at bat again. Not really. If you treat that opportunity, that moment with them as it's of value, you create a connection and leave an opening for there to be a second conversation. By the second time, you'll come back around and be ready, maybe, you'll have more to talk about. So just be willing to kind of flow a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
I love it. What did Colleen say? Hire them. If they have a special, if they have a specialty area, something that you could possibly, hire, like I said, kind of asking their opinion, but you may find that, oh, wait, so is this something you could do? Can I contract you to help me build this out, to develop this in my business? That's a great way. If they don't offer the services as them, ask them for recommendations. Yep, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes we find, we can think that a power person or a position that we're going to get engaged with somebody is going to be long-term. It may be very short-term. They may just unlock that moment, that door, that idea that gets you to your next level. And that was it. There isn't really anything else there. And that's okay too, for sure. Great question. Great question. Any other questions, ladies? Awesome. Well, that's a wrap. With 1 minute back in your busy hour, I know you all are going to shut down this and then head to your to-do lists and have a fabulous day. But I don't want you to forget your action items and to definitely carve out time on your schedule. We'll get the reminder out as well for the class at the end of the month. It's going to be here before you know it. And I can't wait to be back here, the same place, same time, to be able to help you guys take it to the next level. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.